The first humans to ever smoke were not trying to relax. They were not bored. They were not stressed. They were not addicted. They were trying to talk to God. And the story of how a sacred conversation with the heavens turned into a convenience store addiction may be the strangest fall from grace in human history. Welcome to Archaia. Ask most people when humans started smoking, and they'll picture something fairly recent. Cowboys, cigarettes, maybe a pipe-smoking gentleman from a few hundred years ago. The truth is almost unbelievably older. In a dry stretch of the Great Salt Lake Desert in Utah, at a site archaeologists call the Wishbone Site, researchers found the remains of an ancient campfire. And inside that fireplace, they found 4 tiny charred seeds. They were tobacco seeds, and they were 12,000 years old. 12,000 years. That means humans in North America were using tobacco at the end of the last ice age, while mammoths still walked the earth. Roughly 9,000 years before anyone carved the first smoking pipe. These were some of the first Americans, sitting around a fire with a plant we would recognize instantly. But here is the part that changes everything. They almost certainly were not smoking it for pleasure. To understand why, you have to understand what these plants actually did to the human body and how our ancestors interpreted it. When you smoke or consume strong, wild tobacco, the ancient kind, far more potent than anything sold today, the effects are intense. Your head spins, your vision swims, your heart pounds. In high enough doses, you can hallucinate, you can collapse, you can be pulled violently out of ordinary reality and into something that feels like another world entirely. Now imagine you are a human 12,000 years ago. You have no concept of nicotine, no concept of alkaloids or brain chemistry. You inhale the smoke of this sacred plant, and suddenly the world dissolves. Visions appear, and you feel yourself lifted somewhere beyond the physical. There is only one possible explanation available to you. You have touched the spirit world. This is the origin of smoking, not recreation, not habit, revelation. For ancient humans, the smoke was not the point. The smoke was the vehicle. It was the thing that carried you and your prayers upward into the realm of the gods. Nowhere is this clearer than with the Maya. In Maya civilization, tobacco was not a product. It was a divine substance, a gift, they believed, handed down from the gods themselves. The Maya thought the act of smoking was a literal tall conversation. When a priest exhaled a plume of smoke toward the sky, that smoke was carrying prayers up to the heavens. Maya art is filled with images of smoke curling upward towards celestial beings. One of their most powerful deities, known to scholars as God El, is frequently depicted as an old man, smoking a cigar. The gods in the Maya mind smoked too. In fact, across the Americas, many cultures shared a single, striking belief. They believed the gods were hungry, and the food the gods craved most was tobacco smoke. Among the Warao people of South America, the shaman priest would hold a long cigar vertically, point it toward the heavens, and inhale deeply, feeding the smoke directly to the supreme spirits. It was believed that if the gods were not regularly fed their tobacco, they would grow angry and send sickness and death. Smoking wasn't a vice. It was how you kept the universe fed and stable and on your side. And it wasn't just the Americas. Travel halfway around the world to a remote, freezing cemetery high on the Pamir Plateau in what is now Western China. There, in graves dating back 2,500 years, archaeologists found wooden braziers, small bowls filled with stones that had been heated until they glowed. When they chemically analyzed the residue inside, they found something remarkable. High levels of THC, the psychoactive compound in cannabis, and not the weak, wild kind. This was cannabis specifically selected or cultivated for unusually strong potency. These braziers were found in tombs, around the dead. Someone was burning a powerful, mind-altering plant at a funeral, almost certainly to commune with the spirits of the departed, to guide the dead onward, or to bring the living closer to whatever waited on the other side. And here is the beautiful detail. Around 440 BC, the Greek historian Herodotus described a nomadic people called the Scythians doing exactly this. He wrote that they would throw hemp seeds onto red-hot stones, and as the smoke rose, they would shout for joy. For centuries, scholars assumed Herodotus was exaggerating, making up wild stories about foreign barbarians. Then archaeologists dug into that plateau and found the glowing stones, the braziers, the cannabis, exactly as he described. Herodotus was telling the truth all along. So when exactly did it change? When did smoke stop being a prayer and start being a pleasure? The shift happened slowly and then catastrophically. For thousands of years, smoking stayed bound to ritual, controlled by priests, reserved for ceremony, treated with the caution you'd give to something genuinely sacred and dangerous. But when Europeans arrived in the Americas in the 1500s, they encountered tobacco and saw none of the sacred meaning. They saw a sensation, a pleasant one, a profitable one. They stripped away the ritual entirely. They pulled the smoke out of the temple and put it in the marketplace. Tobacco crossed the ocean, and within a single century, the entire world was hooked. The plant that had once been reserved for speaking to gods was now something you did out of boredom, between tasks, on a coffee break. The sacred had become the casual. And nicotine, that powerful, intense chemical our ancestors believed was the literal touch of the divine, turned out to be one of the most addictive substances on the planet. The very thing that made it feel holy was the thing that made it impossible to put down. So here is the strange truth at the center of all this. Every cigarette ever smoked is the faded echo of a prayer. The thing your ancestors treated as a sacred bridge to the heavens. A substance so powerful it could only be touched by priests, only offered to gods, only used to part the veil between worlds. We turned into a habit, a craving, a thing sold beside the gum and the lottery tickets. Ancient humans didn't smoke to feel good. They smoked to feel something vast, to step out of their small human lives and touch something infinite. So, the next time you see a wisp of smoke rise into the air and vanish, remember what it once meant. For 12,000 years, our ancestors watched that same smoke climb toward the sky, and they were certain, completely certain, that someone up there was breathing it in.